Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Just got back from Lake Champlain for the last MLF Pro Circuit tournament of the year. Finished 47th. Overall, it was a decent week. It's my favorite lake in the country to go to. I've had a lot of success up there. It's probably where I've done the best over the years consistently. Just love going up there. You know, sometimes I fish for largemouth, sometimes I fish for smallmouth. This year I just focused on smallmouth. It's a little bit later on in the year than we're normally there. And going to kind of walk you through practice and how the event went for me. So day one of practice, I mean, we've only got 2 days of practice, and Champlain's like 110 miles long. It's so lots and lots and lots of water. So with only 2 days practice, you know, the first day, you know, I decided I was going to spin up in the New York Arm up above Plattsburgh. Historically, that's where I like to fish. Just have a lot of experience up there. So had a good first practice day. You know, I probably had, you know, this is fishing from daylight to dark, but I probably had, you know, 20, 21 pounds the first day. Caught some shallow, caught some a little bit deeper. But when I go to Champlain, typically I like to fish pretty shallow, you know, 10 foot and less. You know, if I'm fishing for smallmouth, you know, I like to throw jerk bait, top water, you know, pretty much, you know, if I can catch them on those two things, I'm usually going to have a good tournament. I did fish a little bit for largemouth, but some of the places where I kind of catch them at times, it just wasn't set up right for that. The water was really low, probably the lowest I've ever seen it up there. This, you know, in all my times I've been up there. So I kind of written Ticonderoga off from the get-go. I've made a couple top tens down there in the past, but this time I decided I was just going to concentrate on the north end and go from there. So anyways, like I say, the first day I just ran a bunch of history that I had up there. You know, caught them doing a lot of different things. You know, I did catch a few on drop shot, a few on Carolina rig, but you know, I caught some bigger ones on jerk bait and a few on top water the first day. It was a little bit windy the first day. So, you know, I didn't really mix in a whole lot of top water that day. Because usually up there, typically top water is best when you got sunshine and it's flat calm. That's the best time to throw top water for smallmouth, which is, you know, kind of different than what probably a lot of guys are used to. You know, they like to throw top water, you know, when it's, you know, cloudy and rainy and stuff like that. But you know, the smallmouth, if you got a sunny, calm day, you know, tie on a top water, and a lot of times you can have a pretty fun day. So on day two, I decided I was going to go over in the Inland Sea, and I've only been over in the Inland Sea just 2 or 3 times, and every time I've been up there, I've really not ever had a reason to go over there. But I thought, well, you know, if I can find something somewhat in the area, you know, I might be able to bounce back and forth between the New York Arm and the Inland Sea. So on day 2, I went right over the Inland Sea. Fished around there for probably half a day, I'd say, and you know, and the biggest fish I caught was like a 3 3/4, and then just a lot of 2-pounders. You know, I couldn't get anything going over there. You know, maybe I was fishing. You know, I was concentrating anywhere over there from 10 to 16, 17 feet. Maybe I wasn't fishing deep enough. I don't know. I just don't have a lot of experience over there to, you know some of those key places. So about a little after lunchtime, I pulled the plug on the Inland Sea, and I went back over to the New York Arm because, you know, there's a few things I still wanted to check over there. I go back over there, and, you know, in probably an hour and 20 minutes, I probably had close to 18 pounds. You know, it's not like I was sitting there hammering anything. You know, I'd stop on a flat, and what I was, you know, actually when I went back over that afternoon, I was, you know, getting up even shallower and 6 and 8 foot deep, and it was pretty flat that second day, practice day. So, you know, it's easy to move around, you know, and what I was doing what kind of keying on, there's some grass up on the north end, and and you get like stubble on your graph, or on my Garmin optics, that would come up about maybe a foot or so off the bottom. But every once in a while, there would be a taller clump that would almost, in some cases, almost come to the surface. And I just scan around with my Panoptics, and and just pitch a drop shot over there, and I mean, it was almost like automatic. About everyone you came to had a fish on it. So from what I found the first day, and what I found, and well, anyway, that second day, after I kind of got up there with the drop shot, I kind of ran to another place, and at that point, later in the afternoon, it was like literally flat, not a ripple on the water anywhere. And so I went over to another place I caught them in the past, and I started throwing a spook and a pop-R, and I caught a couple 4s, a couple 3.5s, 3 3/4. It was pretty, I hate to say easy, but I was getting quite a few bites. And they all seemed like pretty decent fish. So felt I had a pretty good game plan going into the tournament. I was going to stay in the New York arm, and I thought, stick around there, do what I do, I'll catch a good bag. So day one of the event, I kind of started fairly close to Plattsburgh, within 3 or 4 miles. And I've just got a series of places, kind of, it's just kind of history where, I can stop off on, and, and a lot of times I may not hold a lot of fish, but usually I can catch, some 3 and 4 pounders. And, I kind of hated to run past that stuff. I thought I'd just kind of work my way up to my main area. So I started off, I caught a 4-pounder in practice on the first spot, the closest spot I started on. And I go there and I catch like 1 keeper, just 13 inches, 14 inches maybe, wasn't very big at all. And from there, I kind of started running some of my stuff, and I could tell something was different. It was pretty windy for one, but I wasn't seeing near the fish, throwing a jerk bait and stuff that had been in practice. So, the first 2 or 3 hours, I kind of, I guess, wasted, really. And I thought, oh, I've got, the one area kind of in my back pocket that, and another thing, it seemed like the way I like to catch them, jerking and top water, it's usually that bite gets a little bit better as the day goes on, when the sun gets up. When the sun gets up, a lot of times those smallmouth will pull up shallower and root around for crawdads or bait fish or whatever. But so I kind of get up to the one area where I caught a bunch on drop shot that second practice day, and the wind was blowing from the west, and it's kind of blowing right into where I was. So running the boat, the trolling motor was somewhat difficult. It was a lot harder to pan around and to find those taller weed clumps, but I was still able to find a number of them, and and I'm pretty certain I was making pretty accurate presentations with the drop shot, but it just seemed like a lot of those fish were gone. I mean, I hit a bunch of those spots, and I really didn't catch a whole lot at all. So I had a couple more waypoints. I finally picked up a jerk bait, and I caught one about 4 pounds. Then I caught another one about 2 pounds. And then from there, I went out to a place where I had a few bites on a Carolina rig in practice. And I get out there, and there's another boat that was probably within 100 yards away or so. But he was kind of fishing, his waypoints, I was kind of fishing mine. But I was fortunate that, I pulled up there, and I catch like 3.5 pounders in the last couple hours. But I still had a 2-pounder in my well that I could not get rid of. So weighed in on day one, I had 16.5. I was in 76th place. pretty disappointed, really, because I really thought I was going to catch them, a lot better than that. So I also had a very short day on day one. I had a 2:30 as the first flight. So on day two, I had a long day. So I decided I was going to go start where I caught the 3.5 pounders on the Carolina rig. Just kind of bypass all of that other stuff that I had fished the first morning, which I didn't have great success doing. But, in past tournaments up there, there's places that I fished one day and never had a bite and come back the next day and catch 18, 19 pounds off of it. But since I had the long day, I wanted to start on that spot because I knew there's, some better fish there. And then I thought, if I can catch a decent limit there, that'll give me the freedom to kind of, do some other things in the afternoon. So, I start there, and I wasn't there very long. I catch a 4-pounder. Then I catch one like 3 pounds. I was kind of fishing a little break. It broke off from, 11 feet, kind of down to 13, had some scattered like boulders and some grass there. And anyways, it was still windy on day two as well. And, I caught a few and I thought, man, I'm going to kind of float, up on top of this hump a little bit further and, see if there's, any up on top here, just, in 9 and 10 foot. And, I make my first pass through there and I catch like 2 4-pounders. And then, I catch another 3-pounder and before long, I'm sitting here thinking, it's just a matter of time till I catch another 4-pounder because, they were biting. And, if I caught 1 3-pounder on that place, I mean, with my Carolina rig, I probably literally caught 33 pounders there. I just calling ounces every time, and I knew sooner or later, I was gonna get that 4-pounder. And so about, and I had, probably the 18 something by, 8:30 that morning, 9 o'clock. And, and I fished around there till noon. It just kind of seemed like there's one little 100-yard stretch that just was kind of the juice. And finally I told my marshal, I was like, I'm gonna, start running some history again. I'm gonna go throw my jerk bait, because that's what I like to do. I may not get as many bites doing that as I, dragging Carolina rig around. But typically when I get bit, throwing my top water or jerk bait, it's a good one. 3 to 5 pounders. And so I kind of went in practice mode for a little while. Ran a few places, some history places, and I was catching some fish, just not some good ones. And then I stopped on a point that I caught a 4-pounder on in practice, and I make one pass down through there, and I catch another one that's 4 something. So I knew at that point I had a pretty good bag. I still had like a 3 something in my bag. And I thought, well, if I called out with a big one, I'll have a really good bag. So, like I say, just kind of went in practice mode, hitting some history stuff, hitting some new stuff. Caught quite a few fish, but I never could call up any more. And so on day 2, I weighed in 19.4. That jumped me all the way up to 35th, made the cut. Going into this event, I really thought if I finished 30th maybe or better, I'd have a real good chance of making the championship. So, I make the cut going into day 3. I think I'm in, good position to, if I can go out and catch another 19 pounds, I can probably move up to where I need to be. So on day 3, kind of the same game plan as day 2, but also day 3, it's a short day, everybody weighs in at 2:30. So we take off, I get out my place. I wasn't there very long, and I catch a 3 something. And then I had a few other bites, and, I don't know if it's just a product of, the fishing, me there on day 2, catching as many as I did, but I had a number of fish that, I get a bite and then they just drop it. Like the first day, it just seemed like I had to almost perform surgery on a lot of those smallmouth because they just were eating it. And I could just tell something was different. I ended up catching a limit off that spot, but, I had, 11 pounds, 12 pounds maybe. But I felt I had kind of burned it down on day 2 with as many fish as I caught there. So at that point, I thought, well, I'm going to go to the point where I caught the 4-pounder on day 2 with the jerk bait. I make one pass down through there, I catch a 4, and I catch a 3 on the first pass. So I made, probably 3 or 4 more passes, kind of floating around that point. And no more bites. So at that point, I decided I was going to go back Carolina rigging some more, where, you may not get those big bites, but you can. But, when you're Carolina rigging kind of some of those deeper fish, I mean, there's a number of times on day 3 or on day 2 that, I had the boat there, you make 3 or 4 casts and you catch 3 or 4 fish, just bam, 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 bam. So I thought, well, if I can find me a little pot of them, of 3.5 to 4 pounders, I can, get good in a hurry. And went out there and Carolina rigged. I caught a lot of fish, but I just never, found that pot of them. So on day 3, I caught 15-1, and I dropped to 47th. Like I say, overall, it was a good week. I was kind of disappointed that, I really wanted to go up and throw a topwater, just keep a topwater in my hand the entire tournament, but the conditions never favored that. It was windy pretty much all 3 days, and it just wasn't the deal. This time, may go up there next time, and we may get 3 flat, calm days and just stroke them. But overall, it's a good week. I ended up missing the championship by 20 points, so I would have had to finish 27th to make the championship. Had plenty of opportunities throughout the season, to improve my standings. I had one really bad event down at Harris Chain. I think I had finished 125th. I cashed checks out of 5 out of the 6 events, but it's just unfortunate, that some of my finishes weren't, 10 or 15 spots better. Had I done that, then, I'd have made the championship no problem. But like I say, overall, it was a great year. I did have a few camera issues. Actually, it was the mounting thing. So I didn't have much video from Champlain, and the smallmouth take a long time to kind of wind in because they just don't give up. So I just kind of decided I wasn't going to have any video for this event. But I do have a new mount coming for next year, so hopefully it'll be a little more stable and we won't have near as many problems as I did this year with it. But I just want to take time to thank all my sponsors, because without them there's no way I could do this. Phoenix Mercury, T&H Marine, Power Pole, Garmin, Denali Rods, and Bite Me Tackle. They've supported me for a long time. And another thing with the Panoptix Live Scope, I got the new LVS 34 transducer for the Panoptix, and I know I had a lot of people ask, hey, is it worth the money to upgrade into the new transducer? Let me tell you, resounding yes. I stopped off on one bridge piling in practice, and I've got my range set at 100 feet. So as soon as that bridge piling came in to view at 100 feet, I pitched my drop shot out to it, and at 100 feet away, I could see my drop shot go down. So it is phenomenal. Definitely encourage you to upgrade to that LVS 34 transducer. you get that, you can buy the transducer separate. Then I think the only thing you got to do is do a software upgrade on the black box, and you'll be good to go. So I say I was on a Carolina rig, speed crawl, just green pumpkin, kind of the standard Champlain deal, 1/2 ounce weight. I was throwing it on a Denali Lithium Pro 7.4 medium heavy rod. It's a new line that came out within the last year. Been fantastic rods for me. I really like them. They're lighter than some of the other the previous Denali models. So that was great. Had it on a lose reel, 16-pound line. I did catch a few fish on a drop shot, just on a white flatworm, but nothing I weighed in off the drop shot. Then my other setup, two jerk baits. One just a regular jerk bait, and then a +1. I threw both of them, and I caught 4-pounders on both of them. It really depended on how high, how deep of water I was in, and how high the grass was coming towards the surface. So, if I was in a little deeper water, I'd use a +1, or if the grass was, shorter on bottom, I'd use a +1. And if I was up shallower, or the grass was taller, I'd use the regular one. I did crank a little bit, caught a few cranking, but nothing that helped me this week. And really, I think that was kind of my 1-2 punch: Carolina rig and jerk bait. So, if you have any questions, drop a comment below. I'll be glad to answer if I can. And like I say, this is the last tournament for this year, so my boats need to get it cleaned up and get it back to my dealer. I've got my new one coming. It'll probably be here towards the end of the year. Get ready for next year. So thanks for watching. I may try to post more content a little later in the year, but we're going to take a little break now for a month or so, let it cool off a little bit, and then we'll get back to fishing a little bit. So thanks for watching, and talk to you later.